Imagine a creature of the night, immortal, and with a thirst for human blood. Yes, we're talking about vampires. From the shadows of folklore to the spotlight of modern media, these bloodsuckers have carved an indelible mark on our culture. They've become symbols of fear, desire, and even rebellion. They've morphed from monstrous villains into romantic leads and complex anti-heroes. But how did this transformation occur? Join us as we journey through the ages, exploring the evolution of this captivating creature. The vampire, as we know it, didn't just appear out of thin air. Its origins are deeply rooted in mythology. Vampires have existed in the shadows of human consciousness, lurking within the pages of ancient texts and haunting our legends. Interestingly, the vampire myth is not exclusive to any one culture, but is a global phenomenon, seeping into the folklore of societies from Europe to Asia and beyond. In the misty highlands of Eastern Europe, we find strigoi, restless spirits rising from the grave, feeding on the life force of the living. These undead creatures with their ruddy complexions and elongated teeth bear a striking resemblance to the vampires we're familiar with today. Meanwhile, in the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, we encounter the Lamia, a monstrous woman cursed by the gods to feed on the blood of children. Her tragic tale, fraught with loss and revenge, adds a layer of depth to the vampire narrative, introducing themes of seduction and despair. Across the globe, in the ancient cultures of Asia, blood-sucking entities like the Chinese Jiangshi and the Philippine Aswang contribute to the vampire lore. The Jiangshi, a reanimated corpse that drains life essence, and the Aswang, a shape-shifting creature that preys on the vulnerable, both add elements of horror and the supernatural that are intrinsic to vampire mythology. The vampire myth also found fertile ground in the African continent. The Obaifo, a creature from West African folklore, is a witch-like being that drains the life force from plants, animals, and humans alike, embodying the vampire's parasitic nature. In the Americas, the native chupacabra, a beast known for sucking the blood of livestock, adds a bestial, primal aspect to the vampire archetype. These diverse cultural myths, each with their unique interpretations and characteristics, coalesced over time, shaping the vampire into the haunting figure we recognize today. The vampire's evolution from ancient myth to modern icon is a testament to its enduring allure and its ability to adapt and survive within our collective imagination. So from these ancient myths, the vampire was born and began to take shape. Vampire folklore has evolved over the centuries, and literature played a significant role in shaping it. The bloodthirsty creatures of the night that we're so familiar with today have their roots in classic vampire literature, which painted a vivid picture of their eerie existence and gave a whole new dimension to the myth. One of the most influential works that comes to mind is Bram Stoker's Dracula. This novel, published in the late 19th century, introduced the world to Count Dracula, a charismatic yet terrifying vampire from Transylvania. Stoker's Dracula was a far cry from the disheveled and grotesque vampires of folklore, presenting instead an aristocratic figure with a mesmerizing charm. This portrayal significantly impacted how vampires were perceived, shifting the image from monstrous creatures to beings with a certain allure. But Dracula wasn't the only piece of literature contributing to vampire lore. Carmilla, a novella by Sheridan Le Fanu, predated Dracula by over 20 years and introduced a female vampire, adding another layer to the narrative. This story challenged the predominantly male image of vampires and paved the way for more diverse representations in the future. Moreover, the vampire narrative was further enriched by other authors like Anne Rice, whose Vampire Chronicles provided a deep psychological insight into the life of vampires, presenting them as complex beings with their own struggles and dilemmas. This shift from the purely evil vampire to a more nuanced character added depth to the vampire mythos. These literary works not only popularized vampires but also defined many of their characteristics that we're familiar with today. They instilled in our minds the image of vampires as immortal beings with a thirst for blood, an aversion to sunlight, and a vulnerability to garlic and holy symbols. They also introduced the concept of a vampire's ability to transform into bats and other creatures, and their hypnotic power over humans. In the end, literature has been instrumental in shaping our understanding of vampires. It has taken them from the realm of folklore and mythology and placed them firmly in the annals of popular culture. The silver screen has been a powerful platform, immortalizing vampires in a way literature couldn't. Cinematic vampires have been captivating audiences for decades, taking various forms and embodying different characteristics across films and television series. These portrayals have not only entertained us but also shaped our understanding and interpretation of these legendary creatures. One of the earliest and most iconic depictions of a vampire is Count Orlok from the silent film Nosferatu. This character, with his grotesque appearance and eerie demeanor, embodied the terror traditionally associated with vampires. Fast forward to the 50s and we find Christopher Lee's interpretation of Dracula, which added a layer of sophistication and allure to the vampire persona. However, the late 20th and early 21st centuries brought a significant shift in the portrayal of vampires. They transitioned from being the monstrous other to complex, relatable characters. The Twilight series gave us Edward Cullen, a vampire struggling with his nature and the love he has for a human. Similarly, the HBO series True Blood introduced a world where vampires and humans coexist, albeit not always peacefully. These cinematic portrayals have had a profound impact on popular culture. They've transformed the vampire from a creature of the night into a symbol of otherness, highlighting themes of alienation, acceptance, and the struggle between good and evil. Vampires have become more than just horror movie villains. Shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The Vampire Diaries have used the vampire archetype to explore teenage angst, family dynamics, and the trials of growing up. These narratives have allowed audiences to see themselves in vampires, creating a deeper connection with these immortal beings. From the terrifying Nosferatu to the brooding Edward Cullen, cinematic vampires have evolved to reflect society's changing fears and desires. Each portrayal offers a new perspective, a different interpretation of the vampire myth, influencing how we perceive these fascinating creatures. Cinema has truly brought vampires to life, presenting them in a myriad of ways, each more fascinating than the last. Modern literature and media have taken the vampire and transformed it yet again. In this new era of storytelling, the vampire isn't just a bloodthirsty beast lurking in the shadows. They've become more complex and multidimensional, often embodying themes of forbidden desire, eternal youth, and the struggle between our base instincts and societal norms. Consider the Twilight series by Stephanie Meyer. Here, vampires are portrayed as beings capable of deep love and compassion, despite their predatory nature. Edward Cullen, the leading vampire character, is a symbol of eternal youth and forbidden desire, trapped in the body of a 17-year-old for eternity and falling in love with a human girl. In The Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice, vampires are not only creatures of the night but also philosophers, grappling with questions of morality, eternity, and the nature of the soul. Louis, Lestat, and the other denizens of Rice's world offer a deep exploration of what it means to be immortal, to watch the world change and evolve while remaining the same. The HBO series True Blood presents vampires as a marginalized group, fighting for their rights in society. This narrative cleverly uses the vampire as a metaphor for real-world social issues, such as the struggle for equality and acceptance of diverse identities. In the post-apocalyptic world of The Passage by Justin Cronin, vampires, or virals, are the result of a scientific experiment gone wrong. Here, the vampire serves as a symbol of humanity's fear of unchecked scientific advancements and the potential consequences of tampering with nature. These modern interpretations of the vampire mythos add new layers of complexity. They delve into societal issues, philosophical questions, and the human condition, using the vampire as a vehicle to explore these themes. These new interpretations not only entertain us but also make us think, proving that the vampire is more than just a creature of the night. Vampires have sunk their teeth into more than just our necks. They've become a part of our culture. Indeed, these creatures of the night have woven their way into our music, fashion, and art, capturing our imaginations like no other mythical beings. In music, vampires have inspired a plethora of songs and artists. From the Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil to the eerie melodies of goth rock bands like Bauhaus, vampires have become synonymous with the darker, more dramatic side of music. They've inspired a sense of mystery, allure, and even a touch of fear, making music a more immersive experience. When it comes to fashion, vampires have had an equally significant impact. Picture a vampire, and you're likely to imagine a figure clad in dark, elegant attire, exuding an air of seductive danger. This aesthetic has been adopted by high fashion, with designers like Alexander McQueen and Rick Owens often incorporating elements of Gothic style, reminiscent of the classic vampire look. It's not just haute couture either. The vampire influence has trickled down to streetwear, with black clothing, lace, and velvet being staples in many wardrobes. In the realm of visual arts, vampires have been immortalized on canvas, in sculpture, and through photography. Artists have used these beings as metaphors for various themes including mortality, desire, and the fear of the unknown. For instance, take Edvard Munch's painting Vampire. Here a woman with blood-red hair is depicted biting into a man's neck, symbolizing the destructive power of love. Moreover, vampires continue to captivate audiences in various forms of media. They've moved beyond books and screens to permeate our everyday lives, from Halloween costumes to themed cafes, from video games to comic books. They've become a part of our collective consciousness, serving as a mirror to our deepest fears and desires. As we've seen, the influence of vampires extends far beyond folklore and fiction. They've infiltrated every facet of our culture, shaping our aesthetics, our entertainment, and even our understanding of the world. From high fashion to rock music, vampires continue to leave their mark, proving their timeless appeal. Vampires may be creatures of fiction, but for some, they are a very real part of their identity. As intriguing as this sounds, it's a fact that there exist communities of people who identify as vampires, not in the sense of the supernatural beings that feast on blood, but more as a means of expressing a unique aspect of their personas. These real-life vampire subcultures can be found globally, with individuals engaging in a variety of practices and rituals that resonate with the vampire aesthetic. This includes wearing Victorian-era clothing, adopting nocturnal lifestyles, and even consuming small quantities of blood in a consensual and safe manner. But it's important to note that these practices are symbolic, an exploration of the self, rather than an attempt to attain immortality or supernatural powers. A significant part of these subcultures is the psychological aspect. For many, identifying as a vampire is a form of self-expression, a way to embrace their individuality. It's a rejection of societal norms and a celebration of the self. This mindset often stems from a sense of alienation or a desire for empowerment, themes commonly associated with vampires. Culturally, these vampire communities have their roots in the Gothic subculture of the late 20th century. The allure of the vampire, with its themes of power, seduction, and immortality, resonated with those seeking an alternative to mainstream culture. Over time, this fascination evolved into vibrant communities where individuals could explore their vampire identities. These communities are also a testament to the enduring cultural significance of the vampire. They challenge our perceptions of identity and normality, prompting us to question our own societal norms. And in doing so, they keep the vampire myth alive, reinterpreting it in a way that reflects their own experiences and perspectives. While not immortal or bloodthirsty, these individuals embrace the vampire as a symbol of their identity, adding another layer to the vampire's cultural significance. So, the next time you encounter a vampire in a book or a movie, remember that there might just be someone out there who sees a bit of themselves in that character. The lure of the vampire isn't just about fear, it's also about the allure of immortality. This tantalizing promise of eternal life, woven into the fabric of vampire mythology, is a key part of the vampire's enduring appeal. Vampires, by their very nature, defy the ultimate universal truth, the inevitability of death. They exist outside the constraints of time, aging, and decay. They're the embodiment of a timeless existence, a life unmarred by the ravages of time. They invite us to imagine, what if we could live forever? What if we could witness the rise and fall of civilizations, gather centuries of knowledge, experience the world in a way no mortal ever could? But the vampire's immortality isn't without its price. It's a double-edged sword, offering an eternity of existence, but often at the cost of isolation, loneliness, and eternal longing. It's a life forever on the fringe, observing but never truly belonging. This dichotomy presents a fascinating philosophical conundrum. Is eternal life a blessing or a curse? Vampires also offer a unique lens to explore existential questions. What does it mean to be human if one is not subject to mortality? If we remove the prospect of death, does life still hold meaning? Can we truly appreciate the beauty of existence if it is not fleeting? In this context, vampires become more than just mythical creatures of the night. They become symbols of our deepest fears and desires. They represent our yearning for eternal life, our dread of death, and our struggle to find meaning in our existence. They force us to confront our mortality, to question our perceptions of life and death, and to ponder the nature of our existence. Through their eternal life, they highlight the beauty and tragedy of our mortal lives. They remind us that every sunrise, every moment is precious because it is transient, because it will not last forever. Through vampires, we explore our own mortality and our fascination with the possibility of life beyond death. They serve as a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears, our wildest hopes, and our unending quest to understand the mysteries of life and death. From ancient myths to modern interpretations, the vampire remains a potent symbol in our culture. We've journeyed from the shadowy folklore of various civilizations through the pages of classic literature like Dracula, and onto the silver screen where vampires have taken many forms. In the modern era, these creatures of the night have been redefined yet again, bringing new themes and symbolism to the fore. Vampires have left their mark on popular culture, influencing music, fashion, and art, and even inspiring real-life subcultures. The allure of immortality, a key aspect of the vampire myth, continues to fascinate us, prompting deep philosophical and existential questions. Now, we turn the conversation over to you. Do you have a favorite vampire story that sends a chill up your spine or makes your heart race? Perhaps there's a particular interpretation of the vampire myth that resonates with you. What's your favorite vampire story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of vampires. Your time and curiosity are greatly appreciated. If you're thirsty for more insights into the supernatural and the fantastic, don't hesitate to join our community by subscribing. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the shadows, show us some love with a like. We're eager to hear your thoughts, theories, and favorite vampire tales, so do share them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more captivating content. Until next time.